The merry-go-round rolls down, and the boats go down the song. The long went slow, we both sing on.
Hello, listeners in America. We hope you've been enjoying this musical cocktail coming to you from Berlin in the German Overseas Service. And now for a time check. At the sound of the gong, it's exactly 9 o'clock Eastern Wartime. It is now time for our next news bulletin in English, which will be followed by a short commentary.
Here is the news in short form. The invasion front. The German troops south of Caen consolidated their positions and held them against all enemy attacks. American formations west of Saint-Lô continued to attack with strong forces. A small unit of 20 tanks penetrated to the Canopy area. 45 tanks were destroyed west of Colmar yesterday. The new German weapons. The retaliatory fire on southern England on Wednesday was heavier than ever before. London reports disclosed. The London Daily Herald admits that the launching sites of the new German weapon are extremely hard to hit. A British paper published a government regulation which states that the craftsmen and building workers in southern England must work at least 65 hours per week. The war in Italy. All enemy efforts to break through the German positions south of Florence were foiled. The Eastern Front. German troops continue to hold the city of Livorno against all Soviet attacks. The city of Lublin was lost after heavy fighting. 924 Soviet tanks were destroyed in 4 weeks fighting in the northern sector alone. The city of Narva was evacuated according to plan after all military installations had been destroyed. The war in the air. German torpedo planes sank a 4,000-ton tanker and heavily damaged other vessels totaling 25,000 tons. 42 American aircraft, including 35 heavy bombers, were destroyed by the German defenses when American air formations raided localities in southeastern Germany yesterday. Last night, enemy aircraft dropped bombs on Hamburg and Tuesday. 6 machines were shot down. Britain and the Poles. According to London reports, Winston Churchill has advised the head of the Polish puppet government in London to proceed to Moscow and negotiate with Stalin. Bolshevism of the Jews. The former French communist leader, André Marty, who is now in Algiers, demands that all important government positions in liberated France be given to reliable communists. An association for economic collaboration with the Soviet Union was founded in Tel Aviv in Palestine. The Jewish press announces that this association will also further Soviet interests in general. Social and economic items. German soldiers on leave who desire to visit their evacuated families are entitled to financial assistance for this purpose, according to a new regulation by the German Army authorities. The head of the Department for Foreign Workers of the German Labor Front declares that the foreign workers in Germany are treated on the same level and receive the same food rations as the German workers. Dr. Goebbels' address, announcing an all-out intensification of Germany's war efforts, is headlined by all German newspapers today. Dr. Goebbels' statement that the necessities of social warfare will take precedence over all other needs in the life of the German nation is particularly emphasized. His call for more soldiers for the front and more workers for armament factories is another front-page feature, while his announcement that the mobilization of Germany's entire national working and fighting strength guarantees her ultimate victory is quoted with particular enthusiasm. German people welcome the fact that energetic measures are going to be taken to ensure that no manpower is wasted. Berliners who are best acquainted with Dr. Goebbels' energy and efficiency are confident that their doctors will handle this problem as well with his customary speed and matter of factness. That is the end of the news.
You may hear the next news bulletin at 10 o'clock Eastern Wartime. And now you will hear an English version of the article published in the week's issue of Das Reich by Reichsman to Dr. Goebbels, under the title Surpassing the Enemy's Head Start.
Good evening, listeners in America. When, in September 1939, the Reich was forced to war by her enemies, she was in possession of newly organized and modernly equipped armed forces. These forces embodied a technical head start for us, due largely to the fact that in the Treaty of Versailles, the enemies themselves had destroyed our old army and thus made it necessary for us to start all over again. This superiority in arms was one of the reasons for our rapid victories in 1939, 40, and 41, for it enabled us to employ a grand-scale and revolutionary type of warfare against which the enemy had nothing comparable to offer. Everywhere we were masters of the battlefield because our armed forces operated not only according to entirely new methods, which contradicted all previous military experience, but also because they were equipped with the most modern technical arms. The so-called Blitz campaigns of the first war years completely revolutionized the military thought which had prevailed up to then. The Führer, who had conceived and applied this new type of warfare, thus became a revolutionizing renewer of military strategy which had never suffered such a sudden break in its development as in 1939-40. An entirely new chapter of operational thought began at that point. It was inevitable that during any prolonged duration of the war, our enemies should copy the so-called German strategy of the Blitzkrieg. For that strategy was based more on new conceptions than on any new military secret. This strategy had not complicated military thought, but simplified it. It was not difficult to follow the German example, therefore, since our methods could easily be deduced from our successes and their planning. Above all, it was easy to determine which weapons had played the major part in achieving the dramatic German success. In its offensive, the German Wehrmacht had made a far greater use of the motor, both on ground and in the air, than had ever been considered possible up to that time, and that was the basis for our speedy and widespread operation. There was nothing left for the enemy to do but to use the same methods and weapons against us, which they did, and that is the main reason for the negative character of our military development since 1942. For just as we had gained a head start over the enemy by having been forced by circumstances to rebuild our armed forces in the years from 1933 to 39, so the enemy now enjoyed the same advantage compared with us. In many fields, they had to start all over again, and were not bound to existing forms, which was unfortunately not the case with us. In addition, the enemy produced a few new but far-reaching inventions which revolutionized certain branches of modern warfare. For instance, the so-called Rotterdam apparatus, which enabled the enemy air force to fly over the Reich and, despite bad weather, roughly make out the outline of such objectives as large cities. That was the cause of the enemy's terror attacks on our cities during the past fall and winter. We are not ashamed to admit that the invention of the Rotterdam apparatus came more or less as a surprise to us, and that we have taken a long time to develop powerful defense means against night air attacks carried out with the assistance of that mechanism. The British will also need a long time, however, to develop similar countermeasures against the employment of our V1 weapons. In this respect, therefore, the cases are now exactly reversed, and not by accident, but as a necessary result of the development of military techniques on both sides. We, too, after recognizing the enemy's temporary superiority in certain fields, have had to start again from the beginning. We soon saw that we could not beat the enemy simply by outproducing them in their own sphere, but only by creating new means and methods. The necessity was not only to catch up with the enemy's head start, but to surpass it. That has been done in the most various fields during the course of the past 2 years. The results of this decisive development will begin to appear more and more on the battlefield. The employment of our V1 weapon is only the introduction, and if it has already caused such a stir among the enemy, we can look forward with high hopes to further development. The decisive factor about this new development is that it will take place within a completely new framework, and therefore we can justly expect that the enemy will be faced with utterly new facts and in a state of unpreparedness. The essential advantage of our V1 weapon is not so much that it is automatic, but that it has completely demoralized the enemy defense system. The same will be true of our other new weapons, which in the near future will be employed in the most various forms. Of course, every weapon has its counter-weapon. The history of military development shows no example of the failure of such counter-weapons to appear. But experience proves that it takes considerable time until such counter-weapons can be discovered, and even longer time until they can be produced and employed. And this time is decisive. The significance of the normal waiting period we ourselves have experienced during the past 2 years of aerial warfare. We were forced to organize a considerable part of our national energy in order to cope with the difficulties resulting from it. If today, therefore, we are not all too far removed from the appearance of new weapons, the same difficulties will necessarily develop their system, which lies within easy reach and deserves the severest punishment for its barbarous methods of aerial warfare. The technical results of our having surpassed the enemy in certain fields are in large part already in the production stage, and only a minimum still in the experimental stage. We would be ashamed to speak thus if the facts did not justify our so doing. Not long ago, we inspected modern German weapons, the sight of which not only made the heart beat faster, but for a moment caused it to stop beating. We do not say that in order to bluff or boast. We have always been certain of the justice of our cause, and consequently of its success, especially so during the critical phases of this war. We do not necessarily need information and technical science in order to convince us of the certainty of our coming victory. We believe in it because we believe in the German people.
You have been listening to the English version of the weekly article published by Reichsminister Dr. Goebbels in Das Reich under the title Surpassing the Enemy's Head Start. It was translated and read for you by your Nazi commentator. We invite you to listen every week on Thursday at the same hour for the latest article by Dr. Goebbels, Germany's most authoritative spokesman. And now, dear listeners, we are presenting our usual Thursday evening feature program, Poems, Read